Hey guys! This is part 8 of What If Naruto Was in Bloodborne. Hit like and subscribe if you like this one, and also please check the author in the description. Let's start.
We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Chapter 26 Unveil the Deathless Shinobi. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was a terrifying thing, with 9 swaying tails, long ears, and hateful red eyes, as well as a snout full of teeth that Naruto was pretty sure did not actually go in a vulpine mouth. The red fur was also far from natural. I need to resurrect now, Naruto insisted, or someone named Orochimaru might figure out how to become mushy too, he added, recalling that the Kitsune seemed upset about his deathless state. Guarding your power jealously, are you? The Kyuubi asked mockingly. He'll hurt people, Naruto retorted indignantly. Save your self-righteousness for someone who cares. The Kyuubi spat. Ningen hurt each other, it is in your nature. I just want to protect people from that, Naruto exclaimed angrily. So what'll it take to get you to cooperate with me? He demanded. My freedom. The Kyuubi said it in a smug tone that indicated just how impossible the demand was. Naruto glared at the Kitsune. I'll let you out one day, he promised. It'll kill me, but that clearly doesn't matter anymore. I can't say for sure when, because I need to know how to do it, and I don't want to make everyone panic, but I'll try to make sure it happens within a human lifetime. The Kitsune was silent for a moment, and retreated to the darkness, a lofty promise, but a vague one. Why should I trust your word? Naruto frowned. What do you want, a contract written in blood? Because those apparently don't work with my blood, if you hadn't heard, he groused, irritated by the lack of cooperation. Even if I die a couple more times, I have all the time in the world to fulfill your promise, and I'm learning Fuinjutsu. What more guarantee do you want? He asked. The Kyuubi's eyes narrowed into a glare. Guarantee? Or collateral? The Kitsune wondered what to use. Kills Sasuke Uchiha. No way, and also why? Do not question me. That is a stupid request, and it does nothing to prove I will eventually grant your freedom, which I will not do if you don't help me here and now, Naruto said, crossing his arms firmly. You can try to get a guarantee out of me, or whatever collateral is, but I'm not going to add a stupid promise that I won't keep. Fine. The caged Kitsune grumbled some things Naruto couldn't make out before speaking up. I will give you enough chakra to revive your body where it died this once. Should you require the power to do so again, I will demand you tear this seal off and release me the hard way. Naruto blinked. I hadn't even realized that was an option. He confessed before he nodded, but deal, he decided. Shizen watched as Naruto fell. She turned Tsunade away from the sight, but from the way her mentor's shaking got worse, the blonde woman had seen enough. Orochimaru and Kabuto looked pleased with themselves as they approached. The wind shifted. The scent of rot came from Naruto as he pushed himself from the ground up onto all fours. Red chakra lifted off him in wisps and sought out his spilled blood. Orochimaru turned back with a surprised expression, but Kabuto was too slow. Naruto leaped and tackled the older ninja. His monstrous strength held the bespectacled shinobi down. His right hand talons sank into the right shoulder of his prey as the red-eyed Uzumaki yanked his prey's head back by the hair and bit deep into the throat to get at the sweet blood. Orochimaru delivered a kick to the ribs that sent Naruto rolling away from Kabuto, who gargled as he struggled to stand but was curiously missing the vial he'd held a grip on. Shizen wasn't sure what to make of the development, but she could tell the Kyuubi was involved somehow. Naruto forced himself to stand with the blood vial returned to his left hand. His joints cracked in protest to the boy pulling himself up to stand like a human again, and he winced. I am not the weapon, I am the wielder, he muttered, but his eyes remained bright red with slit pupils, his canines remained lengthened, and his fingernails remained talons. I am Ryoshi, never Yaju, he added more quietly, but Orochimaru heard it. What is a Yaju but a Ryoshi among kimono? Orochimaru asked rhetorically as he stepped to the blonde. Surprised that his words seemed to give the boy a crisis, he capitalized on the opening and swung Kusanagi into the Chunin's left shoulder. Shizen was too stunned to scream. Naruto had already gotten up from having his throat slit, but seeing his shoulder close around the blade that dug down into his chest as he jammed the last blood vial in himself was almost enough to make the dark-haired woman faint. She clung to Tsunade to try to protect the catatonic Sannin from the sight, but could do nothing to protect herself. Naruto reached up and grabbed the blade of the Kusanagi. His blood hissed and darkened where it touched the metal. The red-eyed boy pulled Orochimaru in and slammed an incomplete Rasengan into the Nukanin's navel. The man released his blade and allowed the attack to knock him back so that some kinetic force would travel through his body and be transferred with minimal damage to himself. But being forced to roll across the ground to come back up in a crouch from an attack by a young Chunin was an insult he would not take lightly. Before Orochimaru attacked, he watched in morbid fascination as Naruto grabbed the handle of his sword, twisted the blade, sank it deeper into himself, and then withdrew it. A small geyser of blood and a soft hissing sound accompanied the actions of the red-eyed Uzumaki. "You can't kill me, but I can still kill you," he intoned quietly. The Sannin couldn't help but feel like the Kyuubi was looking at him through those eyes. Naruto lunged and swung his stolen blade. The Tsurugi released arcs of darkened blood which were harder to dodge than the blade, and Orochimaru didn't think to, which cost him a burning sensation in his flesh where the blood touched. The Sannin leaped back to further gain distance between himself and the bloody young Chunin. "Well, I can't just be letting you have my weapon," he mused as he risked a glance at how the fight between Jiraiya and the Shodai was going, and it looked like Jiraiya was fighting an awakened forest in the distance, so he supposed things were still relatively going well for him. Naruto lowered his stance as if to leap, but instead he stepped in long strides with his body tilted forward, and lo, Orochimaru palmed a kunai in his right hand to parry the swing from the blonde as he sidestepped. The blonde then swept his pilfered blade low at the legs, but the Sannin hopped up and kicked off the boy to flip through the air, an action that sent the Chunin tumbling. Orochimaru landed as Naruto rolled back up to his feet, then the two clashed again. Red chakra flared around Naruto as he growled, and the blood that splattered from the Kusanagi burnt flesh where it touched, so Orochimaru found himself at a disadvantage in close quarters. So the Sannin hopped back and weaved hand signs. Naruto charged low to the ground but was lifted up by spears of packed earth when Orochimaru slapped his palms to the dirt. The blonde flared his chakra and pushed against the attack as he roared in pain. He swung the Kusanagi, and it tore through the earth spikes. Next came a wave of serpents, but Naruto stepped back as he swung the pilfered sword again. Then he repeated the motion, and with two waves of dead snakes the rest slithered around him at the edge of his melee range. Orochimaru tossed a kunai that the blonde narrowly deflected before the Sannin was upon him, catching the kunai out of the air and slashing at his eyes only to clash with his guard. Naruto swung back at Orochimaru, who ducked under the swing and stabbed him in the leg before twisting to deliver an elbow to throw the blonde off balance. As the blonde tried to catch his footing, he was caught by the front of the flak vest, and the kunai was driven into his throat. The metal in his esophagus made it hard to breathe and would probably kill him again, so he grabbed his opponent by the wrist, yanked it from his neck, and swung Kusanagi. Orochimaru hopped back with a grimace. Blood trailed from where his right arm had been severed by his own weapon, so his jaw distended and he threw himself up. Shizen stared at the snake-like man in shock. That he could shed himself like a serpent to regrow limbs was horrifying to her, but to the man himself he noticed his arm still hurt a lot more than usual, and the shade of his right arm seemed slightly off. Kabuto stood up and Shizen stared in shock at him next. Orochimaru-sama. His heart definitely stopped, his brain died, but the kitsune must have returned him to life somehow. He guessed, his voice hoarse. "How durable are you?" Naruto asked breathlessly. "You do not get to ask that," Kabuto retorted with a glare. Orochimaru used the distraction to get behind Naruto and reach for his sword, but to his surprise the blonde managed a maneuver that both gave him what he wanted while keeping it from his grasp. Naruto stabbed himself through the stomach and up as he crouched into a back step. The Kusanagi was freshly coated in his tainted blood, which hissed as it darkened even as the tip of the sword drove into Orochimaru's chest. It was a move only someone who could not truly die or was absolutely insane would think to pull off, but Orochimaru still hadn't expected it, so he fell back clutching his bleeding chest with a grimace of pain. He looked down and saw the edges of the wound were black, different to the way Kusanagi's cursed poison normally worked. The other difference was the pain. The cursed poison of the Kusanagi hurt. Orochimaru had experienced it once while retrieving the blade. Somehow Naruto's blood magnified that pain and then multiplied it. The agony was excruciating. Orochimaru doubled over. Kabuto. Attend me, he ordered. Naruto swung at the traitor as the bespectacled ninja moved to obey, but his stolen weapon cut through a log instead. Fucking kawarimi. Naruto grumbled as he staggered towards his prey, but before he got to them they retreated with a smoke bomb. The blonde stared at the spot they'd left, fully expecting it to be a feint and for them to come back. Naruto swayed in the wind. He felt tired and he wondered if that was because he was about to die again. Shizen hesitantly approached, unsure if the Chunin even needed healing. Tsunade stood up, wide-eyed as she followed behind her apprentice. The blonde Chunin turned to them as his red eyes returned to blue, but when he opened his mouth he coughed up more blood. Oh right, the lung. He muttered before he fell and was caught by Tsunade. He was kind of grateful for the paralyzing, excruciating pain, because it meant he was still alive. Shizen was surprised to see her sensei on the move despite the amount of blood, but the woman worked fast. Her eyes almost glazed over, like she was treating someone else with a similar injury. Unlike that time though, Naruto's body assisted the treatment, his wounds already closing only closed faster. Tsunade then held out a pill before she realized what she was doing. How are you even conscious? She asked. Good question. Naruto answered, I'm going to go with Kitsune magic. He decided, what's the pill? Replenishes blood. Tsunade answered, still coming to terms with what had just happened. Naruto shrugged and popped the pill in his mouth. What he did could not truly be called a dry swallow because there was still blood in his mouth. You could have chewed it. The blonde woman pointed out. Jiraiya chose that moment to return. He gave me the slip. Is everyone dash? He began in a panic before he took in the scenario. What happened and why does Naruto have Kusanagi? He asked. Naruto considered it, then he smirked. I made Orochimaru retreat. He announced proudly, answering both questions as far as he was concerned. Then his smirk dropped as he realized Orochimaru now knew something in the depths had made him immortal. Others had seen him die and rise again. Naruto supposed keeping it hidden forever was not going to be possible. We should probably hurry back to Konoha. I'm fine to move, you know. How are you fine to move? Kitsune magic. After Naruto enclosed the Kusanagi no Tsurugi in a scroll and washed most of the blood off, his vest still damaged and blood-stained, the group of 4 Konoha shinobi made the rest of the journey to Konoha's gates without being accosted. The Chunin on gate guard duty took one look at the group and his eyes widened. What happened to you guys? He asked nervously. We were attacked a while back, but we all survived, Jiraiya reported. Technically. Tsunade muttered to Shizen with a glance at Naruto, who tensed up but tried not to react more than that. They were waved into the village without much issue. Tsunade was tempted to look around but hurried to the Hokage tower to help her sensei. Hiruzen had deteriorated since Naruto last saw him, paler, and the veins on his arms visibly bulged. Tsunade scowled as she approached the bearded man. You workaholic, a hospital bed in your office. She lectured before she began treatment. The nurses closed the door on the rest of them. Jiraiya coughed into his fist. Hello, Naidame-sama. He greeted politely, although he wasn't sure why the man was outside the office now. This is Shizen-chan, a Konoha Jonin. He introduced. The Naidame stared at Naruto instead. I have spoken with Saru and Danzo while you were gone. He said the Jinchuriki has been somewhere dangerous, but I think they misunderstood how dangerous that place is. I was not jesting when I said I found no method of becoming mushy worth the cost. Shizen and Naruto both tensed, but the blonde sighed. Damn it, I didn't ask for this. He griped. Alright, fine, you caught me. I'm mushy. And my blood heals, and apparently does other weird shit too. He snapped. What did he say out there? Hiruzen's voice sounded alarmed. Now Orochimaru probably knows that a method of escaping death is down there, and won't consider the consequences. Naruto added, and Jiraiya paled. Did you? The Naidame asked. I just said I didn't ask for it. Naruto snapped. Fuck, I still don't even know the consequences. The Kyuubi is pissed because we're stuck forever, And I'm not even Nigen anymore. I was worried I was going insane at first. He ranted angrily. Getting it off his chest was cathartic but left him panting. Shizen was a little shell-shocked and stood there in open-mouthed shock the longest. This happened down in that place Danzo mentioned? Jiraiya asked and the blonde nodded. We'll have to organize Anbu patrols and I'll check it out myself. He began. Don't go too deep, it gets worse the deeper you go. Naruto said before he frowned. Actually, don't send anyone without me. He decided. I'll be like a guide, you know. He finished with a shrug. I have spoken with Danzo. He will show the Anbu what he kept hidden on my orders to increase the guards at my suggestion. The Night Aim said, Now, Naruto Uzumaki, however you have kept your sanity, keep doing it. I know little of how the old blood functions, but I agreed with the Ryoshi down there to hide the ruins when I helped my Aniki build Kanehigakura no Sato. They seek to learn what it is, and you have unleashed it. Naruto blinked owlishly. Full disclosure telling me I potentially unleashed a scourge in my very blood is not good for my sanity. He retorted, his voice cracking in his attempts to keep some levity in his tone. So, who knows? Jiraiya asked. Aside from whoever else heard me shouting about it, Orochimaru, Kabuto, and whoever they tell. Naruto answered as he deflated, Karen Nichin knows too. He added, he really was bad with keeping secrets. Surprisingly good at uncovering them though, so at least he had that going for him. Jiraiya sat down. Okay, well, most of them will probably think you're crazy. He pointed out, I'm still processing it. He confessed. Shizen nodded in agreement. There was an awkward silence before the door opened. Alright, you almost gave Sarutobi-sensei a heart attack, but I treated the poison. He'll start his recovery soon. She said, then her eye twitched. He asked me to be the Godame Hokage and I refused. She added, I will treat whoever I can and then we're leaving. She finished before she turned to march to the hospital. Tsunade-sama is taking this quite well. Shizen remarked lightly. I think I'll help out at the hospital too. Naruto watched the woman go before he entered the Hokage's office. Sorry, but to be fair you hid something from me too, he said. Hiruzen frowned. I suppose I deserve that, but I hardly feel these are comparable. He remarked, I am sorry I hid your parentage from you, but I hope you understand why I did it. Naruto wasn't sure how he felt about it. He certainly didn't like it, but he could tell the old man felt bad about it. I guess it made sense. Should have told me when I was younger though, he grumbled. Hiruzen nodded somberly. Again, forgive an old man a few foolish mistakes. He asked still, to hear your he began before he shook his head. It explains what Enma mentioned, about how the Tengu tribes were talking about someone cut off from the Sannin contracts somehow. He mused. Tengu? Naruto asked. Hiruzen's eyes widened. Ah, these painkillers are a bit much. Look at me using old terms that no one uses anymore. He excused. I meant the Senkamono tribes. He clarified. Naruto decided to sit down. He had to process that he had not spoken with a talking animal but a Tengu, the head of the Gama Tengu from the sounds of it. Why Senkamono? He asked. They felt Tengu had become a bit too revered, so some chose to use a more vague term associated with what they do lately. Hiruzen answered before he shrugged. Enmadano prefers the old term, so we still use Tengu. He explained as he smiled wistfully. It was quite the thing to hear in my youth. Sarutobi trained by the Saru Tengu. He recalled mirthfully. Naruto smiled along with him. It did have a certain irony to it, and the idea of shinobi being trained by Tengu was practically ingrained into cultural folktales. But as a result the blonde felt some melancholy. This inability to die, this old blood, that's probably why I can't sign on with the Tengu, he confessed. Hiruzen nodded. Can't sign a contract, he mused. I'll ask Enma if he knows anything, but I have gotten the impression there are things they can't or won't share with us. The promise followed by the warning left Naruto with a mix of emotions, but he nodded gratefully before he stood up to leave. Karen and Sakura were there with Tsunade and Shizen when Naruto arrived in time to see the woman finished waking up Kakashi. I already dealt with the poison from the Kusanagi. She assured him, a bit colder than the usual bedside manner. That aside, I heard you encountered Itachi. She commented. His Sharingan is on another level. Kakashi answered tonelessly, almost seeming like he might slip back into a catatonic state at any moment. I'll be checking on Sasuke Uchiha next. Tsunade said mechanically. She seemed detached from the situation. Naruto couldn't help but feel responsible, and from the nervous glance Shizen sent him she agreed. It had been a rather savage way to break the woman out of her phobia, but she managed the treatments efficiently, and soon Sasuke was up too. The Uchiha did not look happy to be awake, then again neither had Kakashi. Naruto hoped the two of them recovered soon. He saw how Sakura was looking at their teammate and left them alone. It turned out both Anko was waiting for him at home. Why did you have a cup of blood ready for if I got cravings? The purple-haired of the kunoichi asked. Did it work? Naruto asked. No, actually, Anko confessed with a frown, revealing she had indeed needed it, so I guess I need it from the source. She assumed with a shrug. Probably. Naruto supposed it meant at least that Anko still wasn't like him, which meant his blood wasn't quite spreading exactly what he was, he hoped. The Nidaime made him worried. He dreaded the idea of Anko becoming a Yaju just because she was trying to escape the pain inflicted on her. Anyway, here. Anko spoke up as she pulled out a scroll labeled with the kanji for futon. I managed to get some stuff out of that Suna Kunoichi, mostly chakra control exercises and ways to use futon chakra with taijutsu or bukijutsu, but it's something. She explained proudly. Naruto accepted it and stared at it for a moment. Thanks, Anko-sensei. He said gratefully. The woman blushed at the title. Oh yeah, what can you tell me about Kusanagi? He asked as he pulled out a scroll. Orochimaru's sword? Anko asked. Curse poison. He got it when he went training in the mountains with the Hibi tribe way back from what I heard, but he never talks about how he got it. She answered with a shrug. The poison is said to build up and slowly eat at your lifespan, but Tsunade-sama probably knows the actual details of that better. She explained. Naruto pulled the bloodied Kusanagi out of a scroll. Well, the pain was awful, but I guess the poison can't kill me. He mused, or Tsunade-bachan healed it, one or the other. He shrugged. Anko and Karen stared at the legendary sword. Fuck, I wish I could let you sign the Hibi contract just to rub it in Orochimaru's face that you stole his Tsurugi. The Tokujonin sighed wistfully at the idea. Why do you still have that? Karen asked. I'm the one who enclosed it while Jiraiya-sensei checked the area, Naruto answered, and then I guess no one thought to take it from me in the chaos afterwards. He assumed with a shrug. Jiraiya and Tsunade are both more into taijutsu, Anko pointed out. I know some people who would want it, but no one is going to try and take it from you if you took it from Orochimaru. Right of conquest. She explained. Well, I guess they might try to take it from you by force of conquest themselves, but effectively it's as good yours. Naruto looked down at the weapon. Even in his own hands away from Orochimaru, the blade had a sinister aura that was only enhanced by the dried blood that he should probably clean off it. He put it back on the scroll, performed the hand signs required, and enclosed it back into the spatial containment. Well, coating it with my blood made it extra poisonous, he commented. Karen winced. Why did you cover it in your blood? He asked. Technically, Orochimaru covered it in my blood and then I made him pay for it. Naruto bluffed, deciding the redhead did not need to hear about how he had impaled himself to score a blow that actually mattered against Orochimaru. How do you know it was extra poison? Anko asked with a raised eyebrow. Naruto shrugged. When he cut me it hurt. When I turned my blood on the blade against him it burned his flesh and left weird black marks on the cuts. He explained. Karen glanced at Anko. Still want a sip? The younger Kunoichi asked blithely. Anko frowned but nodded. It hasn't hurt me, but I have to admit the addictive cravings worry me. She said, thankfully I don't think Orochimaru's back, but there's still this ache. That ache is probably your body trying to trick you into getting more pain relief from Aniki's blood. Karen pointed out clinically. Anko ducked her head. Right, I forgot that could happen. She muttered, clearly not certain this was the case. I guess that must be what happened because Naruto-kun fought Orochimaru out there somewhere. She added with a bit more certainty as she rubbed her neck. Speaking of which, Naruto spoke up as he scratched his cheek. All the Sannin and Shizen-chan know about my inability to die. He explained. You what? Anko asked. Yeah, I figured you deserved to know. The blood was because I was worried you might have become more like me because that probably would work for me. Naruto answered. Ninjio-chan implied the age of the blood doesn't matter to me, so I didn't think it needed to be fresh. Enko blinked owlishly. You're a vampire? She asked as Karen tried to figure out who the blonde was even talking about. Naruto shrugged. Fuck if I know, my body absorbs blood to heal, I can't truly stay dead, and some of my senses are enhanced, he said, recalling that had been his hearing and sense of smell exclusively, unless he could see better in the dark, but he wasn't sure if that was a power thing or just a result of spending so much time underground lately. I have to admit, Karen began nervously, when you put it like that, you do sort of sound like a vampire. She confessed, I didn't think they were real, but maybe we just got stuff wrong, or maybe those legends are based on what you are. She trailed off as the blonde didn't seem to like the sound of that. Well, I didn't realize yokai or tengu were real either, or other baemano I've had to deal with lately. Naruto retorted in cold tones. What's next? Yurei? He asked before he shuddered. I shouldn't even suggest it. Enko sighed. Well, whatever you are, you're a chunin of Kanehigakure no Sato too. She pointed out, Jinchuriki, chunin, vampire, whatever you call yourself, you're still you, right? She asked with a raised eyebrow. Naruto's chest tightened, but he kept those doubts to himself and nodded. Yeah, still Naruto Uzumaki, you know, he said. He hoped it wasn't a lie. Once Naruto was left alone, he used the dream to get changed into his hunting outfit, the clothes he was sure were gotten for him by Maboroshi. He'd caught sight of his reflection before entering the dream and noticed something. He became more physically exhausted when he didn't hunt. Whatever the reason Ryoshi needed to hunt, whether it was a psychological need or a physical need for the blood didn't matter. Naruto hadn't realized Maboroshi had been speaking so literally when she said that he must hunt, but he understood a bit better. Despite the need being sated, Naruto couldn't relax. He felt more inhuman by the day, and he also felt a need to become stronger so that when he did get around to fulfilling his promise to release the Kyuubi no Kitsune, he'd be strong enough to protect his home and precious people. Also, he wanted to never need to resurrect like that again. It had felt painful and wrong. That aside, Naruto also needed more materials. He had enough bloodstones to upgrade his Nokojutsu but had yet to do so, and he was tempted to test how the Kusanagi no Tsurugi reacted to being tempered with bloodstones. But he really did not want to risk improving it only for Orochimaru to steal it back. Mostly he needed more blood vials. He had no idea how to make them, so he was relying on finding them stashed away in places guarded by Gyaju. This was a difficult thing to rely on. Naruto decided to do something else about his issue regarding a lack of blood vials. On the bright side, his foray did yield some new quicksilver bullets, and when he returned to the dream he remembered that he could just buy blood vials from the Shisha, somehow, for some reason. Where do they get these? Naruto asked as he took off his wide-brimmed hat and flicked some blood into the ephemeral bushes of the dream. The doll looked to see that he was pointing at the blood vials. I do not know, she confessed. Naruto sighed. This whole situation is arcane, he muttered, and the doll nodded agreeably. He decided to get 6 of the vials, as he'd found out how quickly he could go through them. Then he approached the doll. I think I found a melee weapon that uses my blood tinge, by the way, he commented. A Tsurugi I can coat in my blood. The doll cocked her head to the side. Truly? Then you wish to enhance your blood tinge further? She questioned. Naruto hesitated. Should I? Is it a good idea? I should do more arcane, right? He asked, uncertainty shaking him. Also, that form of resurrection, with the Kyuubi, how did you know that would work? He asked. Resurrection simply requires power. To do so forcefully requires much more power than the dream provides. The doll answered the last question first. I do not know what that Kitsune is, but even I can feel his power. Karen Nichin, do you know how we could get blood into this? Naruto asked, showing her one of the empty vials. Karen frowned. How do you get the blood back out? She asked. Naruto shrugged. Vampire magic, he answered sarcastically. Karen's frown only deepened with concern. I don't think I could manage it, she confessed, not without learning some new Irian ninjutsu or having access to the hospital's tools and supplies. She added quickly. A knock on Naruto's door caught their attention, so the blonde went out Karen's front door to see who was out there. Hey, Yugao-chan, he greeted casually. When the mask is on, call me Nico. Yugao demanded, clearly irritated by the overly familiar blonde. Okay, Nico-chan. Naruto answered, what's up? He asked as Karen stepped up behind him. Hokage-sama wishes to speak with you, and your physician. Yugao answered before she turned to return to the Hokage tower. Naruto exchanged a glance with Karen before they both shrugged and went with the woman. In the office was the Nidaime and Sandaime Hokage, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizen, and Danzo Shimura. Also there was a large man-sized monkey, who most there already knew as Enma. Naruto was not sure entirely why before he realized he was probably looking at the Saru Tengu he'd heard about. The blonde Chunin supposed he should try to be polite, so he mustered all of his etiquette. What should I call Sarujiji? He asked with a pointed finger. I am Enma. Cool, nice to meet you, Emijiji. Naruto said with a nod. Enma snorted, I tell you to be more respectful, but from what I've heard that's about as good as you get. He retorted, so Mashiye? That explains why the contracts are denied you. Danzo opened his eye. Perhaps we should hear from the beginning what happened. He suggested with a pointed look at the blonde Chunin. Naruto frowned. He almost wished he'd kept it a secret, pretended he hadn't died, asked Tsunade and Shizen to hide it too. Well, it all started when I painted the Hokage monument, hid underground, found those creepy dungeons, and accidentally went spelunking into the ancient ruins Kanahigaku no Sato's foundations are built on. He said, Oi Danzo Jiji, that place is real, right? He asked and the man nodded, not reacting to the choice of honorific. Okay, well, there was an old dude, he gave me a blood transfusion, and now I can't die. Or I can, but I don't really stay dead. The Nidaime sighed, Ryoshi, a group of ninjen who have cut themselves off from samsara somehow to achieve mushi. He explained, I do not know how, only that it involves blood. Even in my time there were few of them, and they seemed like a bizarre cult. They stick to those ruins, and when Kanahigaku no Sato was built I agreed with them that they should be the last. Those I spoke with knew their form of mushi was unnatural, but they sought a way to put an end to the rot that exists down there. Naruto took in the information slowly as he blinked a few times. Well, I hunt too now. I've been a ninja and a Ryoshi since then. He said after a few moments of being stared at, it comes with a weird teleportation power, and I don't sleep normally. He added as he tried to recall any other clues, pale blood, the guy who turned me into this mentioned I should look for pale blood, so I guess I just need to get stronger and go deeper, right? Jiraiya frowned. Why would you go deeper? He asked. It sounds like you should just stay out of that place for good. He pointed out. Naruto had not considered that. I can't. He confessed, his posture sinking in on himself as he scratched the back of his head. I can't really explain it, but I need to hunt. Jiraiya recalled how the blonde had fought 2 IWA Nukenin in Tanzakugai and nodded. That explains a bit, actually. He muttered as he crossed his arms. Hiruzen sighed as he wished Tsunade would let him smoke. Well, this is a lot to take in, and we're just getting started. He mumbled. Shizen startled, just getting started? She repeated with wide eyes. Akatsuki? Hiruzen answered, tell us about them, Jiraiya. He ordered. They're hunting Jinchuriki, not sure why, no idea how many of them there are, and until recently I just thought they were a mercenary group of Nukenin. Jiraiya answered, among them are Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hashigaki, the only 2 confirmed members so far. He added, and the tension in the room increased at the mention of the Uchiha, and Kisame himself was considered a formidable S-rank shinobi as well. 2 S-rank Nukenin working together, and thereafter Jinchuriki. Danzo mused, perhaps our own Jinchuriki would be safest. No, Danzo, Hiruzen said firmly, not letting the man finish. Naruto wondered what that was about, but from the way the Sandaime reacted, whatever was about to be suggested had been suggested before by Danzo. I wanted to take Naruto on a training trip, Jiraiya spoke up, get him on the move with me for a few years to keep him out of the crosshairs, he explained, but if he already has some kind of teleportation he'd probably be faster and safer alone, ironically enough. He pointed out with a shrug. Funny you should say that, Enma spoke up with a smirk. I was going to suggest the boy go on a pilgrimage through the mountains. I will allow him to pass through my tribe's territory, provided he learn how to survive up there. He offered, S-rank ninja will hesitate to go there, and should they chase him, he can always teleport back. Naruto blinked at the idea of a mountain pilgrimage. Is it even a pilgrimage if I can teleport between the mountains and my home? He asked. Enma shrugged. I don't see why not. Jiraiya could see a few reasons. You may allow him, and the Gamma tribe may allow him, but he'd have to negotiate with other tribes, navigate potentially hostile territory, and he can't actually contract with any of you. Enma grinned threateningly. His status as Mushi and his inability to sign a contract or absorb natural energy is exactly why he can move more freely through our territory than even you, Sannin. He explained, even those bumbling Dayan would be willing to let him through, because we would all naturally assume he needs to entreat with the Okami. Besides which he has confessed he cannot die, so it would be good training to do all those things, wouldn't it? Naruto blinked at the mention of entreating with a wolf, then he remembered he was dealing with a Tengu. I guess I might as well. He mused, it wasn't like he'd stay dead anyway. Hiruzen coughed. Perhaps not straight away, he suggested. He would like to have someone sign the contract with Enma to send them with Naruto, Chunin or apprentice, Mushi or otherwise. Naruto Uzumaki is still a Konoha ninja and in a shinobi cell under Kakashi Hatake. He reminded the others, who was requested recently for a mission that would take his team far from here for at least a couple of months, which I imagine you lot will be going on when he and Sasuke Uchiha have recovered. He brought up. Enma nodded. My invitation will stand for a time of at least a few years, but I do think the Okami will know the most about this situation. He insisted. Danzo frowned. I suppose I shall work with Jiraiya-san in ensuring that Orochimaru does not find a way to get this power for himself. Jiraiya looked less than enthused with that plan, but didn't verbally complain. Karen raised a hand. Now that Naruto and I's status is out in the open, can I request some medical equipment so we can run some tests and make sure Anko is going to be okay? She asked. The Nidaime frowned. Who? Anko-chan has been drinking my blood for pain relief. Naruto answered. We don't think it's turning her into a Ryoshi though. Tsunade's eye twitched. What's your name? She asked the red-headed girl. Karen Uzumaki. Congratulations, Karen-chan. You just volunteered to help Shizen and I give Naruto Uzumaki and Anko Mitarashi a checkup. Tsunade said with faux cheer. Shizen wasn't sure if her mentor was back to normal or getting worse. Chapter 27. Attempts at Understanding. Why am I getting a checkup too? Anko asked petulantly. By contrast, Naruto looked like he was being well behaved if one ignored the way his eyes and body kept shifting towards the window as if ready to use it as an escape route. Also, shouldn't they be checked up separately? Karen asked nervously as Tsunade fiddled with some sharp implements that made Naruto scoot closer to the window, for privacy? The redhead clarified. I'm doing blood tests, not asking them to get naked. Tsunade responded without looking up from a scroll that had an array of symbols on it. Karen knew enough to know the Fuin was for Iri ninjutsu, but it was beyond her expertise. Anko pouted but didn't argue further. She couldn't deny that the old blood was a mystery, and the more they knew about it the better. Soon enough Shizen returned with more equipment, and the two patients had their blood drawn before the three Iri ninja began to analyze it. Well, the good news is Anko-san's results line up well with her last results. All discrepancies are within the margins of error. Tsunade began with a frown before she turned to Naruto's results. This though? Not only do they not line up with anything else we have on record, but your blood type came back inconclusive, plus you tested positive for multiple narcotics, alcohol, and a couple of diseases that you definitely don't have. She said before tossing the paper aside, so, the results are useless. She decided, also we can't separate the plasma from your blood. Fuck, I can't even tell if you have blood plasma. I don't know what half of that meant, Naruto confessed bluntly. Tsunade threw her arms in the air. It means your blood is barely even considered blood. She snapped. The only reason I call it blood at all is because it pumps through you here. She gestured both arms at the younger blonde, and the equipment registers it as blood still. She finished by gesturing her arms at the machinery. Naruto wondered if he should pull out the bottles of fermented blood, or whatever they were, but decided to keep those to himself for the moment. Mostly he felt detached. So I'm really not human anymore? He asked. Tsunade flinched. No, that's not what I meant. She clarified, you're just completely different from normal. she said, trying to avoid saying anything negative as she picked up on his mentality. Keki Genkai can mess with some of these machines, your blood just happens to mess with all of them. She grumbled the last part but tried not to sound too much like she was complaining. Enko fidgeted in her seat. So, is it safe to use his blood to treat the pain caused by Orochimaru's Juinjutsu? She asked. Tsunade glared at the kunoichi for a moment before she had an epiphany that lit up her eyes as they widened. I need to get Jiraiya, wait here. She ordered before she disappeared. Even Shizen was left behind. The two young Uzumaki waited with the two unrelated older women until Tsunade returned with Jiraiya, who had Fukasaku riding on his right shoulder. All right, Enko, taste his blood, I guess. The Sannin ordered with a grimace. Clearly he thought it was a bad idea. Enko shrugged and palmed a kunai in her right hand. The wrist of said hand was then grabbed by Tsunade, who held up a vial. It doesn't work like that. I need it from the source. The purple-haired kunoichi argued. Karen nodded. Unfortunately, that's true. She confirmed. Tsunade sighed and released her grip. So Enko sidled up to Naruto with a grin at his flustered expression and blushing cheeks. Then she cut his left cheek and leaned in to lap at the blood. Jiraiya watched the way Naruto relaxed and subconsciously tilted to get more comfortable as soon as her tongue touched his wound, as well as the body language and facial expressions of the two. He could see why Karen was so nervous about it. Shizen actually covered her own eyes as Tsunade raised an eyebrow. That looks like something else to you guys too, right? Karen asked in a stage whisper that Enko definitely heard, but the two Sannin nodded anyway. Shizen nodded as well, but her reaction to it gave that away already. Fukasaku just chuckled. Well now, isn't that interesting? He mused. She's temporarily cut off from natural energy. Not as deeply as the mushi there, so I imagine she could still sign contracts. He said, confirming Tsunade's suspicions. Jiraiya, look at the Juinjutsu. See if you can figure out anything new now. Tsunade said, which startled Enko and gave the Sannin the same epiphany the Iria ninja had. That snake, he actually figured out Senjutsu but hasn't been using it for himself. Jiraiya snapped as he rushed over. Or? No, he doesn't know Senjutsu, I hope. The man started muttering to himself. Fukasaku leaned over to get a better look from his perch on Jiraiya's shoulder. Odd, but you're right. How does that work? He wondered. Orochimaru is more dangerous than we thought if he could make something like this, and this is just the incomplete product. Enko shuddered. That pain is natural energy? She asked. The Juin draws in natural energy, drains your chakra, combines them, and then is supposed to grant a power boost, but yours is missing some pieces so that it only does half of that, and causes you pain. Makes sense. Fukasaku answered as he inspected it, namely yours only does it when Orochimaru is near and yours is missing a piece to actually give you the power boost. He explained. Enko gulped. So, can you remove it? She asked. Fukasaku shook his head. No, but I suppose if you became what Naruto is it would wither. He mused. Don't give her ideas. Tsunade warned in a clipped tone. Naruto's hands shook so he gripped his seat. I don't think that's a good idea. He was surprised he managed to keep his voice steady. Karen nodded in agreement. Naruto and I is Uzumaki. For all we know you might not get the same deal. Naidame-sama said this stuff is dangerous, right? She reminded them. Fukasaku nodded. Enko looked down as she shrugged. It doesn't taste dangerous. She muttered, although she knew that was a lie. Just the fact it was physically addictive made it dangerous in a way. Oh yeah, Naruto pulled out a scroll and unfurled it. Speaking of dangerous, he said as he pulled Kusanagi no Tsurugi out of a scroll. What did my blood do to the cursed poison? Or what did the cursed poison do to my blood on the blade? He asked. The blood on the blade had darkened to an almost black. Tsunade attempted to get a sample with the swab, but the swab melted. So she used the scalpel to scrape it into a glass vial. I'll let you know when I figure it out. Now put that thing away, she insisted. Naruto shrugged, put the scroll and sword down, weaved hand signs, and enclosed the weapon back in the same scroll with his chakra. Fuinjutsu is great, he said proudly, which made Jiraiya beam. Are Sasuke and Kakashi still in the hospital? He asked. They get out this afternoon, so they better be. Tsunade groused and crossed her arms under her chest. Now that Naruto thought about it, that was probably not intentional. Her boobs were too big to cross her arms normally. I'm going to be busy today, Jiraiya spoke up, so have the day off to relax after you've caught up with your team. He said before his expression turned more serious. It's up to you whether or not you tell them about the mushy situation. His tone didn't give away which one he thought would be best. Enko decided to follow Naruto and Karen, mostly because she wanted to mess with Kakashi. So of course when they got to his room she opened the door with a smug expression on her face. As you're out of commission, I guess I'll be training your cute students. She taunted, but then a pillow hit her in the face, and her expression when it dropped was a step away from bursting out laughing. Jiraiya-sama took Naruto-kun apprentice, Sasuke-kun is still down too, and I asked Kurenai-san to show Sakura-chan some genjutsu while I'm down. Kakashi retorted. Naruto frowned. Actually, Jiraiya is busy today, he recalled, so I think I'll train with Anko-sensei after all. He decided. Kakashi's eye widened in alarm. Anko, he said, his tone carried a warning. I'm not going to do anything weird, just teach him some extra tricks. Anko answered with a carefree grin. She wasn't sure she'd be able to stop grinning, but she hoped no one noticed that. Relax, you act like you think I'm going to eat him up or something, she added with a sly smirk. Kakashi personally thought it was in bad taste for the woman to joke about exactly what he was worried about, even if she was being subtle about it. Don't worry, Kakashi-sensei. Even if she kills me, I won't die, you know. Naruto assured, ready to explain his deathless state, and not noticing the way Anko's grin widened. Naruto, people die when they are killed. Kakashi corrected him. Not me, I dream but I can get back up. Naruto explained, should I tell Sakura-chan and Sasuke? Kakashi didn't answer for a long moment. This isn't a funny joke. He deadpanned. I'm not joking, I even absorb blood to heal. Naruto said, I might even be eating the souls of people I kill. He added, he wasn't sure if that was true, but Ishi was a vague term. He made the last part up. Anko helped unhelpfully. Not that he's mushy though, I think Naruto and I is being honest about that, and both Tsunade-sama and Shizen-san saw it. Karen confirmed a bit more helpfully. Kakashi lay back down. In that case, go tell your team, I'm going to take a nap. He decided, mentally exhausted. Anko followed Naruto and Karen again, wondering how she could mess with the Uchiha or the pink-haired girl. Thoughts of messing with the pair of genin halted at the situation they walked in on. Sakura looked downtrodden, Sasuke looked angry, and there were slices of apple on the ground. Naruto frowned when his male teammate looked at him. I came to let you guys know another secret I've been keeping. He confessed, since it got out and all, you should hear from me, right? He asked. Sasuke sighed and fell back into his hospital bed. Just how many secrets do you need? He complained. Sakura just looked confused and concerned all over again. I cannot die. Naruto confessed quickly. Sasuke sat bolt upright again with wide eyes. Sakura's eyes widened but turned on the Uchiha when he started laughing. I'm not joking. Sasuke continued to laugh. It looked painful. I believe you. He managed once he caught his breath. It's just, don't worry about it. He finished with a morose sigh. Sakura and Karen exchanged a look as they both considered the very distinct possibility that the Uchiha was going insane. Naruto knew it wasn't his fault, but he felt guilty for being able to continue training while half his team was bettered in, and Sakura was clearly trying to help Sasuke, but the boy was being less than cooperative. You seriously just believe me? He asked. Kakashi had needed at least a little convincing. Sasuke nodded. Sure, you're not the type to lie about that, and it explains a lot. He answered, like how you were always somehow simultaneously terrified of dying but completely fearless. It was a weird contrast that makes perfect sense now that I know what you were hiding. He explained. That being said, sure, let me kill you as proof. He demanded. No way, that still hurts. Naruto refused adamantly with crossed arms and a shake of his head. Sasuke frowned before he started staring out the window. Then he looked at the three kunoichi in the room with them before he finally noticed. Why is the proctor for the second exams here? He asked. Anko-chan is addicted to me. Naruto answered before the woman could, completely straight-faced. Sakura leered at the older kunoichi as Karen just sighed and slouched over in mock defeat. Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Unorthodox brag of your desirability to women, but okay. He commented before he turned serious. I still want to fight you when I get out. I consider Gaara being the signal to an invasion as his forfeit, which means you and I should have had our match. You fought Gaara instead. Naruto snorted. I did not fight Gaara, you fought Gaara. He insisted before he smirked. I fought Shikaku. He added smugly. Enko scoffed. You won that fight by waking the already beaten Gaara up with a weird ninja tool you stole that was probably designed for it. She recalled. Kyomi Isupuka is mine now, and so is everything else I've pilfered or won by right of conquest. Naruto retorted indignantly. Point is, I won our match. Sasuke repeated. Naruto wasn't sure why the Uchiha was insistent, but the other boy relaxed when he nodded. Enko pouted. Naruto had no idea why, since they were now at a training ground. Didn't you say you wanted to teach me something? He asked. Enko sighed. Yeah, I had a great idea. But then you accepted that challenge, so now I should tone it down, I guess. She complained. I guess we should go over the futon scroll. She mused. Naruto frowned. Oh, well, that scroll is at home. He told the kunoichi. Enko sighed again. Before she gained a devious smirk. I know. I'll show you some grapples and pins. Shinobi need to take live targets at times too. She decided. Naruto wondered why he felt a sense of foreboding. Karen wanted to protest, but technically she didn't want to interfere with real training, and Enko usually just liked to word things like that. The grappling reinforced that idea, but the very first pin set off alarm bells. It wasn't technically indecent, but she was also pretty sure Enko was being a bit more hands-on than strictly necessary. So, you want to make sure your knees can bend and theirs can't, Enko began as she flexed her legs to demonstrate. This is a full body pin. Now normally you want a kunai at the throat, but a hand on the neck works just as well. She continued to lecture cheerfully. Naruto tried not to find the pin too comfortable. The left hand on his neck wasn't squeezing, so that felt fine, but having both of his knees locked up by Enko's legs as a pair of that which was warm, soft, and round pressed against his back was nicer than he'd care to admit. Keep the left shoulder down with an elbow or your own shoulder, Enko explained as she demonstrated switching between those. The motion of swapping in the two positions left Karen's eye twitching at the suggestive sight, and if you press your thumb in between the elbow like so, the purple hair kunoichi lifted Naruto's right arm in her right hand, which completed the pin, and then she pressed her thumb into his elbow joint. Then you can't move it. Naruto attempted to bend his right arm and shuddered. The feeling wasn't painful, but it was definitely unpleasant to feel something holding his joint forced open. Technically nothing about the pin itself was painful, but the blonde was still red-faced and slightly mortified. Okay, now how do I actually get someone in this position? He asked quickly, voice a little raised in pitch. By grappling. Enko said, trust me, with your strength you should just grab and pin things. Even if your taijutsu isn't great, you could pretty much overpower anything that isn't a joint lock. She explained, don't worry, I'll give you lots of hands-on experience. She promised in tones that should have nothing to do with combat training. Enko personally found it hilarious that Naruto had declared a need for a cold shower before his match with Sasuke, and the way Karen glared at her was just extra icing to her. Sure, she knew she shouldn't mess with them so much, but the reactions were funny. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura met them at the hospital entrance. Why do you two feel the need to have a spar today? You know you could wait, right? The Jonin pointed out, trying his best to look bored. We barely ever get to measure ourselves against each other, and our opportunity during the exams was halted. Sasuke retorted, besides, how often do you get to test yourself against the yokai? He added, his tone gave away that he was actually excited for this despite trying to seem aloof. Yokai? Naruto asked flatly. What else do you call a human who stops being a ninja? Sasuke asked rhetorically. It made perfect sense to him. Kami. Enko joked. She was pretty sure most people trying to escape the Shinigami had a god complex. Orochimaru certainly did. Sasuke shuddered. I am not calling Naruto that, ever. He denied. Besides, you just want to say you've been drinking Kami blood instead of yokai blood. Karen accused. She's still doing that? Sakura asked with a sound of disgust and a grimace, as well as a pitying look at her blonde teammate. Yes, I am Naruto-sama's new acolyte and blood slave, feed me blood. Enko joked in a monotone but cracked up laughing at the mortified expression she received. I'm sure he'll let you lick his wounds when we're done, Sasuke said dryly, which stopped the laughter for some reason. Enko stared at the Uchiha, then at Kakashi. How did you teach him that? She asked. I didn't need to, Kakashi said smugly. He had not been joking when he said Sasuke was similar to himself in certain ways. They didn't need to be exactly alike or clones like Guy and Lee. That didn't match his or Sasuke's style. Damn it, Enko muttered. Then she glanced between Karen and Sakura. Nah. She dismissed the two, for what neither Kunoichi knew, but both got the impression they dodged a bullet somehow. Naruto noticed they were gathering for the match in the same training ground Kakashi had used for the bell test. Sakura even glared at one of the logs. If Sasuke noticed, he didn't let on. He just looked eager to go even if he was fresh out of the hospital. The bandages on his left arm and the arm brace weren't there. Naruto was pretty sure that was just because the Uchiha was too eager to fight to replace them, but he wondered what had Sasuke so eager to go. The Uzumaki supposed it meant his own want to fight his teammate was natural. He didn't worry about that. He didn't have similar desire to fight with Sakura since he'd already heard of and seen rivals. Kakashi raised his hand as his students made the seal of confrontation at each other, ready to signal his students to begin. Sasuke seemed to decide on his own signal and leaned forward before he dashed at the blonde. Naruto slid his right foot back and raised his arms to brace for a taijutsu engagement. Sasuke swung his right foot high in a feint, then pulled it back to duck low and hook his left heel into the back of Naruto's left knee. The blonde buckled slightly, and the red-eyed genin pulled his left leg out to lash out with his right shin into the same spot he'd kicked a moment ago. Naruto made the bunshin seal and Sasuke was surrounded. With a flip, the genin of the two hopped up and palmed a kunai to dispel a kage bunshin that came at him. But then they all started coming at him, and he needed a second kunai to fend them off. Plus he lost sight of the original blonde Chunin even with his Sharingan. Sasuke couldn't decide if he was impressed or irritated, but he decided that at the least Naruto was good training for his Sharingan and combat abilities. This was proven by the fact that the Uchiha quickly learned a strategy his only response to was to stab to dispel or evade, as the Bunshin Horde's taijutsu strikes were open-handed and his Sharingan could see they intended to grapple. There was no denying Naruto was physically strong. He shrugged off mortal blows and lifted grown men like he was using some kind of jutsu to enhance his strength or lower their weight. So Sasuke knew getting grabbed by the blonde powerhouse was as good as losing the fight. What was a little more annoying to accept was that Naruto's taijutsu had improved, which meant his Kage Bunshin had improved. Before, Naruto had wasted so much effort with a lot of moves, but Sasuke barely noticed until on the receiving end of it how the blonde had improved. Far less wasted movement, more direct strikes aimed to grab at limbs. His footwork could be better, but he kept balance against Sasuke's kicks, so he was doing okay. It still bothered Sasuke. Naruto had innate power and could train to refine it, but anyone could train hard. Lee had proven that. Sasuke had trained hard too. Naruto just had more power. It hardly seemed fair. Slowly the Uchiha became more vicious, aiming for blows that weren't strictly needed to dispel Kage Bunshin and slowly tiring himself out in the process. The rest of the fight was a dance of steel and chakra as the genin defended against the endless horde of blonde Chunin. But finally Sasuke's Sharingan faltered. He almost dared risk reaching for the Juinjutsu, but a bolus around his legs sent him to the ground. Sasuke cut the strings and the bolus dispelled, but the lack of attacks while he was down despite still being surrounded was a bit disheartening. Alright, fine, you win, he grumbled as he stood up. The horde dispelled and the remaining Naruto was alarmingly close by, front and center among the action. How did I not hit you? Sasuke asked. Naruto grinned. I didn't get closer until your Sharingan went down, he confessed with a chuckle. Sasuke frowned as he stood up and dusted himself off. Well, you're going to be a pain in the ass to figure out how to beat, but I guess I technically know Kage Bunshin now, he said. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise before they narrowed. Oh, you sneaky, teach me a jutsu in exchange, he demanded angrily. What am I supposed to teach you, Chunin? Sasuke asked with a mocking smirk. I can't teach you clan Katan no jutsu, they're like family heirlooms, he bluffed. Most of the Katan no jutsu he knew were common, but he had learned them from Uchiha scrolls or personally from family, and I can't teach you Kakashi's signature jutsu. So I hope you don't mind if I take what I can from you and beat your ass next time," he challenged with a smirk. Naruto had not considered that sparring with Sasuke would result in the boy learning his jutsu. "You dick, just tell me the hand signs for that big ball of fire you threw up at Kakashi-sensei," the blonde demanded. Sasuke bristled. He was tempted to continue the fight. An ache in his neck urged him on, but he clamped down on it. "How about I just tell you the hand signs for any future jutsu I take from our enemies?" he offered as a compromise. Naruto considered the caliber of opponents they would potentially go up against, and recalled Orochimaru and the Shodai Hokage were on the list. "Yeah, okay," he agreed, calming down immediately. Sakura blinked olishly at her two teammates. She had sort of expected such eccentricities from Naruto and even Kakashi, but seeing it from Sasuke too made her stomach drop. "Strength costs sanity, doesn't it?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," Enko said with a laugh, flexing her arm proudly despite doing nothing to actually lift her coat sleeve and show off if the muscles beneath were impressive. Sakura wondered if she was willing to lose her mind in order to keep up with Sasuke. She looked at her teammate, saw his confident smirk, and found her resolve. "It does not," Kakashi denied as he turned a page in his little orange book. The danger of his students killing each other passed for the moment. That Naruto would not stay dead mattered little to his prior concern. "I'm pretty sure it does," Sasuke disagreed blandly. "As far as he'd seen, that was basically how it worked anyway. You know who can go from warm friendly Ajisen to telling kids to kill each other for honor? A crazy person." He recalled the way the Sandaime Hokage had seemed to flip a switch and turn from the warm caring figure most of the Konoha genin knew to the cold leader of a shinobi village had been a little jarring. "Sandaime-sama is not crazy," Kakashi denied without looking up from what he was reading, although the fact he could respond to the vague reference gave away that he was listening more than he let on. "Besides, ninja aren't kids," he denied flippantly. "Oh, so I can take Naruto-kun into the forest and—" "No, bad Enko," Kakashi denied with a glare. He knew she was joking, but he still thought it was a bit tasteless. Naruto's eye twitched as he flushed at the constant teasing. He needed vengeance, he needed retribution, he needed to prank Enko. Also probably Niji. He had not seen Hinata since he got back, so he had no idea if he needed to prank Niji yet. Enko pouted. "We're bound by arcane blood," she insisted with faux indignant tones. "How can you call yourself a lover of romantic literature if you ignore that?" she accused, and the blonde's eye twitch became more prominent and more violent. Kakashi supposed she had him there. "Well, you're still a Tokubetsu Jonin while he's a Chunin. Plus, with that age difference, Sakura couldn't believe their Jonin commander was taking the woman seriously. I'm pretty much obligated to step in on the taboo," he pointed out. Enko grinned. "Only if you see it happen or I make a fuss." Naruto spoke up. Enko's grin faltered in surprise. Karen groaned. "Oh great, she corrupted him. How terrific," she complained loudly and sarcastically. Kakashi stared at his Chunin student. Puberty. "Well, I can protect Naruto-kun from Enko, but I honestly don't care to protect Enko from Naruto-kun," he said, and the kunoichi blushed. "You brought this on yourself," he added a bit more quietly. Enko laughed nervously. "As if I need protecting. He's just learning to talk a big game and you're welcome," she said, as if it was intentional for the blonde to get better composure against flirtatious women. "I will not thank you for corrupting my adorable students, but at least he's not genin anymore," Kakashi retorted without looking up from his book, which Sakura thought was a bit hypocritical given the contents of the book. Naruto, however, along with how he'd been treated by others while wearing the flak vest, inferred from the words that being a Chunin made him even more of an adult than being a ninja already did somehow. He considered getting sake. "I'm getting Ichiraku ramen," he decided instead. It was his greatest pleasure. Sasuke shook his head before he stopped. Naruto was absurdly powerful, and all he ever seemed to eat was Ichiraku ramen. He knew little about nutrition, but he recalled that food was a fuel and that different fuels could do different things. "I'll join you this time," the Uchiha decided. Even he thought it was a stupid theory, but it was worth a test. "I'll try some of this Ichiraku," Sakura spoke up, but it was obvious she was only joining in because Sasuke was. Kakashi raised an eyebrow. He knew Karen would probably stick with Naruto, so he glanced at Enko and could see from the way her body language was pointed at Naruto that she was planning on following him. He wondered if the kunoichi knew how obvious she was being. I suppose I could eat. The Jonin commander decided, mostly to help Karen chaperone if Enko and Naruto played off each other until they were sharing one brain cell in an argument that had no meaning. Dango is better. I like dango too, but that's a sweet. Ramen is real food for filling you up and nutrition. I like sweets better, that's why your blood tastes so good to me. Besides, ramen is mostly empty carbs. Dango is mostly empty sugar. You take that back. You're mostly empty sugar. Kakashi sighed. That had taken all of 2 minutes of walking to the ramen stand before Enko had begun to try arguing that they should get dango instead. There's 2 of them, Sakura said despondently. Sasuke just nodded, but he looked 2 steps from figuring out how to disassociate from his body out of necessity. Karen had never seen them argue like that specifically, but she wasn't particularly surprised. Ramen can be anything. You could even make Enko ramen. Naruto argued, but that phrasing halted the woman he was arguing with. Whoa there, you're the immortal one. If anyone is getting put into ramen, it's you, Enko retorted with a smirk. Oh, so it's not enough to lick me, you need to sink your teeth in now too? Naruto asked sarcastically. They know how they sound, right? Sasuke asked. Enko does. Kakashi confirmed. The blonde was a bit more of a mystery. Hey, you started the whole eating me thing, Enko continued, changing her tone to one that the blonde recognized as teasing. I mean Enko the food, not you, Enko-chan. Not my fault you're named after my favorite sweet, Naruto retorted, his own tone agitated, but he was clearly trying to match wits with the kunoichi. You're named after a pretty good ramen topping yourself, Naruto-kun, Enko returned easily. Karen blinked as she slowly realized that they were definitely just flirting now. The Tokujonin wasn't even really trying to hide it. Sasuke was getting sick of it. Get a room. He spoke up, a phrase Kakashi had been avoiding the urge to say because of just who it was. We would, but Karen won't let us have privacy. Enko shot back cheekily. She knew she was pushing her luck, but she was having fun. Naruto considered denying that, or coming up with some way to turn it on Enko, but it was technically true, so he nodded. Karen flushed bright red in embarrassment. You two should not be allowed to be alone together, she decided plainly. Kakashi and Sakura both nodded at that. Thankfully, the 2 hyperactive ninjas settled down once they were actually at the ramen stand. Naruto-kun, you brought me a lot of extra customers today, Teuchi praised gratefully with a laugh as I got ready to take their orders. Naruto hadn't expected everyone to join him for ramen when he made the decision. He'd only announced it on a whim. He wondered if that was what eating with larger families was like. It felt slightly different than when Karen cooked for him, though, so he supposed that was just a normal team thing they hadn't gotten around to. Before Naruto went into the dream, he smiled. My team dynamics are so weird, he muttered. Enko-chan is weirdest, he decided with a nod. Then he rang the bell and awoke in the dream, and then he descended into the depths beneath Konohagakure no Sato. Checking areas Naruto had already cleared out confirmed something troubling. Most Yaju regenerated eventually. Despite the implications they didn't dream, the blood eventually restored them anyway. The young Ryoshi had no idea how long it took, but as far as he could tell, larger things took longer. The body of the antler daiju was missing. That concerned the blonde the most. On the one hand, Naruto could practically harvest Chi no Ishi to grow stronger, but he noticed he received diminishing returns, that the larger or stronger Yaji gave more, and that did encourage him to seek out a way deeper than he had gone so far. However, the exploration for supplies and Chi no Ishi was halted by a new form of Yaju, a more humanoid but still undoubtedly gray-furred Yaju with massive claws that had an opposable thumb each. Then Naruto recognized the face of his attacker despite not recognizing the eyes, the old man who had first given him blood. Naruto almost froze. He was holding the same weapons the man had used. His clothes were probably made from materials taken from the man by Maboroshi. But Maboroshi had killed the man. She had said that only a Yaju remained and she had killed it. So Naruto buried his doubts and concerns beneath his desire to hunt the Yaju before him and peppered its torso with quicksilver shot from his blunderbuss as it lunged, staggering it. Naruto slid no Kojuritsu into his belt as he stepped to his prey. Then he plunged his right hand into the chest of the Yaju as his right arm shifted. There was no need for chakra. The young Ryoshi still didn't understand it, but he splayed his fingers and shoved the dying Yaju off his arm before inspecting his right arm. The arm was back to normal already. No damage to the glove even though Naruto had seen claws. He wiped the blood from the palm of his glove to his coat and retrieved his weapon from his belt. I definitely need to go deeper, he muttered. He wanted to figure out what was actually going on. Naruto was also concerned about the fact he might be showing people these dungeons. He didn't want to, and he was glad he had not encountered Orochimaru at all. Part of why he backtracked so much was to make sure the Sannin was not creeping around. The Night-Aim Hokage implied the blood was dangerous. Everything Naruto learned had reinforced that, but his only real option was to go deeper to find a cure or a way to deal with the issues that came with his inhumanity. Patience was not a strong suit, so Naruto continued deeper. Then he encountered something unexpected. Naruto found what he could only think of as an Akuma. It was similar to some of the other wolf-like Yaju he'd encountered, but lankier, with horns, and it somehow created and threw fire at him. All logical thoughts of chakra and katan no jutsu left his mind. After everything else he'd seen, the Ryoshi was pretty sure a supernatural Bakemono trying to kill him with fire was not outside the realms of possibility. Panic seemed like a logical solution at the time, and hindsight indicated that throwing as much chakra as Naruto could muster into a kick that sent the Yaju flying down the tunnel was indeed effective, but perhaps turning tail and running for a safe spot to return to the dream when he'd gained the upper hand was a mistake. Mostly because the Yaju got up, gave chase, and hurled more fireballs. Naruto was able to take cover, and once he calmed down he could focus his chakra enough to do more than blast things. He wondered why taijutsu training never covered that. Or maybe they did and he missed it. It was hard to tell for the blonde. The horned flame-throwing Yaju struck a log and snarled. It halted and sniffed the air, but Naruto was already behind it, his gun and cane holstered as he prepared a Rasengan. As his prey turned, the blonde slammed his Rasengan into the midsection of what he still thought of as an Akuma, which sent it flying. Naruto heard the rushing sound of the Chi no Ishi, saw the haze, and blinked in surprise that the Rasengan had done so much damage. There was more crushing damage than cutting, but there was still blood. I guess I shouldn't use this on people I don't want to kill, he muttered, although he was still proud that he'd finally finished it. Chapter 28 Panacea. Alright, ready to finish the Rasengan today? Jiraiya asked boisterously. I finished it last night, Naruto answered, and the Sannin deflated. Did I mention sleeping normally isn't actually possible for me anymore? He asked. Jiraiya sighed but nodded after he did. You did, he confirmed, but still. He complained, albeit vaguely, I guess at least my estimate on when you'd complete it was close to accurate. He muttered to console himself. Alright, I guess I'll try to run you through some more Fuinjutsu, but we need to make sure you understand the theory behind each symbol before you write it down. Naruto watched Jiraiya go from slightly sulking to competent teacher in a moment. It occurred to him that Kakashi rarely gave them more than basic instructions and expected them to figure things out, which they usually did anyway, but he wondered if Kakashi's method of teaching wasn't actually the normal. Iruka and Anko were different too. Kakashi was just the least informative with his instructions, really. By the end of the lesson, though, Naruto hadn't technically learned any new Fuinjutsu, but he understood the fundamentals behind the one he used more and could probably make small modifications to the formula based on what he was actually putting the object in on the fly. Jiraiya said that enclosing flames and scrolls was a different array, and while there were differences and it had a different name, Naruto just thought it was a derivative of Funin no Jutsu. Jiraiya watched as Naruto altered the Fukahoin to unleash the flames with extra force depending on the chakra of the one wielding the Fuinjutsu. Ah, well, that's terrifying. I never considered doing that, he confessed. Normally Fuinjutsu was used defensively. Why not? Naruto asked. Just put these squiggles here, add some chakra, and whoosh, you know, he mimed excitedly. Jiraiya sighed. You don't even remember what that symbol is called, do you? He asked, and the blonde shook his head. Screw it, you're a savant, you know what it does internally and that's what matters, he decided. Naruto felt it was odd to not be tired after a training session, so he just switched to another training ground when he was dismissed to continue on his own time. but on the way there he ran into Sakura with Kurenai and the rest of Cell 8. "Hey, Hinata-chan." Naruto greeted with a wave. As far as he was aware, the girl was his friend, so he smiled too. The girl smiled shyly and waved back. "Sakura-chan, everyone else," he added with 2 nods. Sakura tried not to laugh as Kiba frowned. "Well, hello to you too, ass," he grumbled. "You only greet the cute girls by name or something?" he complained, more hoping to tease Naruto than actually offended by the smirk that grew on his face as he spoke. Sakura raised an eyebrow at the Inuzuka, but he didn't seem even slightly embarrassed by what he said. "If that were the case, I would have greeted Kurenai by name too, but I don't know what honorific to use," Naruto confessed with a shrug. He didn't think Sakura would have told them he was immortal, but he wondered if he should tell Hinata. They were friends after all. "Since it would work, although you ascended to Chunin fairly quickly, there's still much you could learn from me," Kurenai answered calmly, surprised the blonde would classify her as one of the cute girls. Naruto considered it as he looked the woman up and down. He considered the honorifics he knew and decided to try one he hadn't heard someone use yet, since he thought it fit given what he guessed was the age of the young woman. "Okay, Kurenai-senpai," he decided with a nod. Kurenai had not expected that. "Wow, you are unpredictable," she mused. "Were you looking for Sakura-chan?" "I just finished showing her a genjutsu, but she was going to join us for a team exercise if she had nothing to do," she explained. Naruto shook his head. "I just finished learning a new Fuinjutsu with Jiraiya-sensei. I figured I'd come to a different training ground to refine my." He was about to say ninjutsu when he remembered who he was talking to and what she was helping Sakura with, as well as his main weakness. "Can you help me with my genjutsu sometime actually? I'm really bad at it for some reason, like I'm great at henge, but I guess the eye for detail is different somehow?" he asked in a rambling manner suddenly. Kurenai was a little thrown off balance by the sudden shift, but she considered her schedule. "I'm a little busy lately, sorry," she apologized. "Maybe after that mission I heard Kakashi-san talking about," she suggested. Naruto recalled the Sandaime mentioning something about Kakashi being requested for a mission that would get his team out of the village for a bit. "Oh, I think I heard something about that, but not much details yet," he said. "You should keep details to yourself just in case anyway," Kurenai lectured simply. Naruto nodded. "So, what kind of exercise are you doing?" he asked curiously. "Capture the flag," Kiba answered, "but Kurenai-sensei will have Sakura-chan on her team, so it'll be harder for us than usual," he clarified, implying it was a common training method for them. Naruto considered joining in, but realized he would give an unfair advantage to whichever side he joined just for sheer Kage Bunshin unless he handicapped himself to not use them. "Sounds cool, have fun," he said sincerely. It would be difficult to explain not using his strongest ninjutsu. "Hinata-chan, did Niji apologize yet?" he asked, and the girl shook her head. "Shame." The blonde made a single Kage Bunshin with a grim expression. The duplicate leaped up to the rooftops and quickly disappeared. Kurenai wondered how he managed that while wearing bright orange until she realized his clothes were roughly the same shade as the tiles a lot of the buildings in Konoha used. She watched the Chunin leave and wondered what else he did that seemed stupid but had a purpose. Naruto decided a good way to train was to have a horde of Kage Bunshin try to beat him up. They went down in one hit, while he was actually deathless. It made perfect sense, but the bruises and pain a few hours later when he was finally too tired to make more had him wondering if it was worth it. "Wow, and I thought Kakashi-san was a workaholic," Enko commented as she approached the down blonde, alerting him to her presence. "What kind of training were you even doing?" she asked with a raised eyebrow and her hands on her hips. "Taijutsu and stamina," Naruto answered. He figured those were the things he'd practiced the hardest during that session. "How did you train your taijutsu and stamina?" Enko repeated with a roll of her eyes. "I made a bunch of Kage Bunshin, and I fought them," Naruto answered as he sat up, finally recovered enough to move again. Enko's lips twitched as she tried not to grin. "I really hope I'm there the next time you fight Orochimaru, because I'm beginning to think you might just kill him for good next time," she praised, unable to stop a small smile. Naruto shrugged. "I'll try," he promised. He was not fond of the nuke knee neither. "You're acting different without others around," he commented. Enko's smile shifted into a predatory smirk. Wow, you really have been enjoying my attention, haven't you? She teased, and the blonde blushed, so she laughed. Tell you what, you kill Orochimaru and you can have any prize from me you want, she offered, her smirk widening as she watched some blood drip down from the Chunin's nose. Naruto shook his head, much to the Kunoichi's surprise, and no, I'll kill him for the bounty and to protect Konohagakure no Sato. He insisted before his eyes shifted back down. I would accept gifts from people glad he's dead though, he added nervously. Enko tried not to laugh or chuckle as she nodded. Oh yeah, I'm going to gratitude your socks off, she promised, smirking again as she watched Naruto's entire face turn red. You need help getting back to your doting Munchin? She asked. Naruto stood up. Nah, I think he began to refuse, mostly just because Karen would stress out about him being alone with Enko. Then Yugao appeared next to the two, like a third wheel who had just showed up. Hokage-sama has an S-rank assignment for Chunin Naruto Uzumaki, she said calmly, but Enko could see she was receiving a glare. Naruto could guess what this was about. Oh yeah, I said I'd help with that, didn't I? He recalled. See you, Enko-chan, he said. Your honorifics are inconsistent, Enko complained as she watched the two leave. She preferred being sensei to Chan, especially since Chan gave people the wrong idea. The fact that wrong idea may eventually prove true was a separate concern. Hey, Hokage-gg, I mean, Nico-chan said you wanted me, Naruto greeted. His affectionate choice of honorifics filled the waiting Umbu with exasperation. Kakashi just chuckled wryly as the Sandaime cleared his throat. Why does he have no etiquette? The Nidaime asked sharply. Hokage-gg raised me. Naruto deflected the blame quickly. The Sandaime cleared his throat more insistently. I should have had someone teach him manners, but I confess once he expressed a desire to be a ninja, I presumed the academy teachers would do it, he excused. Irika tried. One Umbu piped up. Naruto wondered how the man knew that. That's why he even uses sensei at all apparently, he added, leaving out that technically Mizuki had helped Irika with that. The Nidaime understood immediately what approach to take. How do you expect to be able to infiltrate if you do not know and use the proper honorifics? He questioned. I do know them though, Naruto said, then he pointed at the Sandaime. Hokage-gg, he demonstrated before pointing at the Nidaime. Hokage Dano. No one had ever heard Naruto use Dano for anyone. The lord of your village is Hokage-sama. I would be Nidaime-sama to avoid confusion, the Nidaime corrected. But Hokage-gg raised me, Naruto reminded. What if you needed to impersonate one of his Umbu to remain close to him and hide who you are? The Nidaime argued. Naruto blinked. Oh, well then I'd pretend to call him Hokage-sama, I guess. He shrugged as if he'd never thought of it, but then it's not me saying it, it's a person I'm pretending to be anyway. The assembled Umbu, Kakashi, and the two Hokage wondered how Naruto thought those were different. The Nidaime looked at the Sandaime, who just shrugged. Well, I'm dead and bound to this corpse, so it's not my job to correct my successor's lax discipline over insubordinate soldiers with inborn method acting problems, the white-haired and blue-armored man decided. Hiruzen sighed. Naruto-kun, you mentioned you would be willing to show my Umbu the depths? He asked. Naruto tensed. Honestly, it'd be safer not to go down there for them, he warned. I can just teleport in and out, and it's not like I'll stay dead, but the idea of taking others down there with me just seems wrong, he confessed. Hiruzen frowned. Are you saying you've been going back down there anyway? He asked. I want to figure out what's up with this stuff. If I can find the other Ryoshi, I can ask more questions. I can go deeper and figure out what this old blood is, maybe even find a cure. Naruto rambled. The last part surprised even him though. The Nidaime smiled at that. A cure for being mushy. Not many people would want to become Nijin, he said approvingly. One of the Umbu sighed in relief. Hiruzen couldn't tell which one and he wouldn't ask them to rat each other out. So, in that case, Naruto-kun, your S-rank assignment, to be completed whenever it is possible to do so, is to investigate this old blood and provide monthly reports, starting with when you return from your next mission with Cell 7. The Sandaime explained as he dismissed his Umbu, who did disappear, but many just took guard positions and heard the plan anyway. Naruto didn't even know extended S-rank missions to investigate something long-term could be a thing, but he supposed the Hokage could assign whatever mission he wanted technically. Either way, he descended into the depths through the dream that night. He did so with renewed purpose. He'd upgraded the Noko Juritsu and was combing the areas he'd already explored for a way to slot the blood gems into his weapons. Blood gems were rare, but larger enemies tended to have them. In hindsight, Naruto wished he'd harvested the corpse of the antlered daiju when he'd had the chance. Instead, he found a side passage that led into a tunnel someone had dug out that was filled with giant rats the size of large dogs. "I hate this place," he muttered as the swarm of rodents of unusual size turned on him from whatever rotting carcass they were feasting on. The blonde Ryoshi considered the rat's size and speed, then he switched his Noko Juritsu to its less rigid mode and readied his blunderbuss. The spray of quicksilver from the gun shot made the rat squeal in pain and recoil. Then Naruto threw out the length of his Noko Juritsu. The tension of the cord pulled it back as the bladed whip shredded through two rats. The blunderbuss was holstered as Naruto looked around for a torch, and the other rats surged forward. The blonde swung his weapon again to tear into another rat, and leaped back with gore trailing behind him as a third giant rat fell to his Noko Juritsu. Then he pulled out a kingpin, lit the rag around the neck of the bottle with a torch sconce, turned to face the rats, and lobbed the bottle of flammable liquid at his prey. The kingpin landed in the path of the rats and shattered. The liquid ignited as it spread over the rats and they squealed. Many died on impact. Some tried to put themselves out and died more slowly. Two at the back managed to run away. The sight of running prey had Naruto making a running leap over the charred corpses and licking flames. His pupils slit as he landed, leaned forward, and ran after his prey. In a moment his was upon them, swinging and spinning the bladed whip of the Noko Juritsu through the flesh of his prey to make it rain blood. Once the haze cleared in Naruto's head, he checked their corpses but found nothing of value. So he went back to where they'd been to see if the corpse they were munching on had anything. On closer inspection, it was once a pig, a big pig. Maybe a hairless subterranean boar, but given it lived in the depths and the rats had been eating it, it probably wasn't normal. Also, the cave it was in was a bit of a sty, but Naruto recognized there were other exits as he moved to check the corpse for anything of use. He supposed a bone might come in handy, but as he was rummaging he was surprised to find his second blood gem. "I really should have checked that daiju," he muttered to himself. Naruto pocketed the new blood gem, holstered his Noko Juritsu, and made 16 Kage Bunshin that split into groups of 4 to explore while he backtracked. It was an odd way to do things, but there were so many weird shortcuts and elaborate dead ends that it was somehow faster to do it this way and just run back if his Bunshin found something. Also, Naruto had finally figured out that anything his Kage Bunshin killed counted as his kill, so even if there was a delay the Chi no Ishi came to him. As he backtracked he encountered a sound he did not appreciate, someone else hunting. Normally Naruto would be happy to hear another Ryoshi, but the sounds were more like a shinobi assassinating the Yaju and hiding it disturbingly well. If not for the fact that the Yaju were more cunning than they seemed and set traps of their own, he likely wouldn't have heard them. Naruto's first concern was Orochimaru, but he hoped it was just one of those other strange Umbu. But it was deep enough that that wasn't likely, and yet not deep enough for it to a new Ryoshi. He tilted around the corner, and saw a shirtless white-haired young man covered in blood, with bones sticking out of him. The blonde had not considered that he was up against another form of Yaju, but then the form straightened out, and the bones just receded. A method to survive, to remain useful, he said it would be down here. The young man muttered, his green eyes searching the area, and Naruto ducked back into cover. The blonde felt a bit bad for the person. From what they were muttering, they must be like those who sought the old blood to survive some kind of ailment. With that in mind, Naruto turned the corner and silently approached the long-haired teen who had looked away to check a different hall. "Hey!" The shirtless bone user jolted and spun to face Naruto, who now noticed the person had 2 red dots on his forehead and a strange mark on his chest. Are you one of the?" he began before his eyes widened in recognition then narrowed. "You're Naruto Uzumaki?" Naruto did not like that expression. "No," he lied, "I'm Menma." He said the first name that came to mind, which wasn't even a name, it was a ramen topping. But Naruto was a ramen topping too technically, so maybe the other guy would buy it. The young man was clearly not buying it. "Orochimaru-sama did say you were obsessed with ramen," he mused. Naruto's hackles raised along with his shoulders as he lowered his stance at the name of the traitor Sannin. He supposed Kabuto was the reason Orochimaru knew about that detail somehow, but that the teenager standing across from him ready to fight was connected to Otogekyo was concerning. The blonde Chunin suddenly got the idea that a group of Umbu for backup would have been useful for a situation like this. But he squashed that thought since he could just be killed without dying and then report the situation. Naruto noticed that besides the time he'd resurrected, he lost time when he died though, so he decided to finally use one of the few tags that Maboroshi gave him. First he needed to create some distance though, so he tossed a smoke bomb as he leaped back and focused his chakra. From the smoke charged a killing engine that danced with blades of bone that tore open his own body. Naruto swung Nokojutsu desperately. Blood flew through the air as the two clashed and fell away from each other. Who are you anyway? The blonde demanded to know. Because I will give you a dumb nickname if you don't tell me, he threatened. The teen glared but was surprisingly only superficially wounded. The serrated edge of the bladed whip had strangely only torn open the skin. I am Kimimaro Kagaya. I seek to become mushy so I may serve Orochimaru-sama for eternity, he answered. Not happening, Orochimaru needs to die. Naruto refused immediately. Kimimara's eyes filled with hatred and he charged again, but this time the mark on his chest grew and expanded in a familiar way that gave it away as Juinjutsu. Naruto was overwhelmed by the flourish of attacks that somehow included the Kagaya ripping out his own spine and matching the Nokojutsu with it. Naruto decided his opponent was absolutely terrifying as he tried to get distance between them and make a retreat. He finally managed a Kawarimi with the corpse of one of the giant rats, and rested his Nokojutsu in the crook of his right arm as he filled the tunnel with smoke using the Bunshin hand sign. Immediately the blonde felt the impressions of his Kage Bunshin being dispelled. Once his opponent noticed what they were, he simply danced through them, his exposed bones cutting into the chakra constructs to destabilize them. Naruto became aware that he actually was not strong enough to defeat Kimimaro yet. His Bunshin couldn't last long enough to get a solid hit, and his hits didn't seem to affect his opponent as much as they should when they'd clashed. The fact Orochimaru might be around too spurred Naruto's decision to retreat, not out of a fear for his safety, but for the safety of Kanehigakure no Sato far above them. So the blonde ducked into cover as he pulled out one of the tags Maboroshi gave him, placed it to his forehead under the brim of his hat, and focused his chakra there like he was doing the leaf-sticking exercise. In a moment Kimimaro rounded the corner, but in the next Naruto was gone before he could pounce on him. The blonde knew he was a long distance from where Kimimaro was, but that had been nerve-wracking. He was hesitant to use the bell but hurried back. Naruto-kun, what in the world are you doing here at this hour? Hiruzen asked tiredly, feeling the situation was oddly familiar. The outfit the boy was wearing was not. Where had he even gotten a leather coat like that? Orochimaru has an agent in the depths. I just got away from him. Naruto answered quickly, and all familiarity with the situation dropped. The Chunin exams had proven both that Orochimaru could infiltrate the village without being noticed, and cause pain to Anko on a whim when he was around. Return to your apartment, stay with Karen, Hiruzen began. Assist Anko-san if she arrives unless Kakashi-san tells otherwise, he ordered. Umbu will search for signs of intrusion, he informed before he finally sighed after the blonde left with a nod of confirmation. I only wish Naidame-sama could do more than advise. He complained silently, but Jiraiya was still working on usurping control to hand it over to the Naidame himself, and restore him closer to Prime. If Orochimaru wanted to raise the dead, then the dead would try to punish him for it, to quote the dead Hokage in blue armor himself. Oibun is still with Karen. Nay, actually, Naruto answered, I'm just a Bunshin, he said before he dispelled. Hiruzen blinked. Oh no, he's already using it like that. He muttered to himself, then he went to put his armor on before going to direct his Umbu more directly. He knew they'd heard his orders. Karen was more than a little intimidated, namely because Jiraiya had managed to sneak up on her once. To be fair, sensory abilities weren't perfect. At least she didn't know any that were, and she didn't believe any Hyuga who said their vision was truly perfect. Still, if Jiraiya could use a moment's distraction to get that close to a sensor, then odds were high that so could Orochimaru, which was a terrifying prospect even before Naruto relayed that the Sandaime had ordered Naruto to stay with Karen, likely because of said sensory ability she had. Karen didn't even really have a name for it, but she knew it was a good one from what she'd read about sensory abilities. if she focused enough it was probably impossible for someone like Naruto or Sasuke to hide from her. Sakura might be able to hide in a crowd though, but most of Naruto's graduating class were clan children with above average chakra. Naruto and Sasuke on the other hand shone even among them. Karen would admit that privately that she liked the feel of the Uchiha's chakra more. Naruto's was somehow both sickly and powerful, cloying and distant, dark yet bright. It was like feeling a juxtaposition. She'd gotten used to it, and understood it was something to do with the blood since even the other Jinchuriki had felt completely different. In fact, until Gaara had fallen asleep, Karen was unable to feel Shikaku, so she doubted she had ever even truly felt the Kyuubi's chakra. So the fact that someone as powerful as Jiraiya and Orochimaru could still potentially sneak up on Karen, and one of them might be around, and might try to kill her just to hurt Naruto who could not die, was incredibly nerve-wracking, and the girl decided she needed something stronger than tea. Naruto and I, could you send a Kage Bunshin with these coins to get me a can of coffee from a vending machine? Karen asked as she counted out what she figured was more than enough money. She knew the machines were around. Naruto nodded and pulled out some money of his own, then he made a Kage Bunshin and sent it off with the money. Karen noted the other alarming thing, but she didn't know if she wanted Naruto to know she couldn't feel a difference between himself and the Kage Bunshin. It didn't take long for the Kage Bunshin to return with a can of iced espresso and, "Is that hot ramen broth in a can?" Karen asked. "It's miso-flavored chicken bone broth," Naruto answered, but the can clearly said hot ramen broth and was clearly a can. Given the image of narutomaki and breaded chicken in the bowl on the can, Karen decided the blonde was probably being honest about the actual flavor, but she still had no idea why someone would drink it. Karen knew Naruto had an obsession with ramen, but that still seemed a bit much. Then it occurred to her that ninja udon and bone broth were probably where almost all of his nutrition came from until she moved in next door. By morning Karen had fallen asleep. Naruto stayed awake just in case. He tried some of that coffee stuff but was surprised to find that it actually did not make him less tired, it just made him excited and tired. It also made his hands a little shaky. Karen jolted awake suddenly sometime after the sun rose, a panicked look in her eyes before she relaxed. "Sorry, I fell asleep," she apologized. "It's fine," Naruto assured. "Enko is on her way now," Karen grumbled before the door opened. "Did you give her a key?" she asked. Naruto shook his head. "Enko-chan can pick that lock," he answered. "Actually, I made a clay mold of your key last time I was here," Enko clarified shamelessly, showing it off. "Change your locks," Karen advised. Naruto sighed. "I can't be bothered. Besides, she's a Konoha shinobi too and she hates Orochimaru," he reminded with a shrug. Enko just smirked. "Besides, I've been well behaved," she reasoned, which Karen would argue against if she had the energy. "So, I guess no sign of him?" Naruto asked as he scratched the back of his head. "Not a one," Enko answered with a morose sigh. "But he was right in front of me outside the Forest of Death, right behind me while I was messing with you the first time, and I didn't feel a thing then either." She muttered, "Jiraiya-sama is working on it," she added to assure the younger ninja that things were probably okay. Naruto wasn't sure if his sigh was one of relief or not, so, "I think I met the guy Orochimaru wanted Tsunade-bachan to heal," he commented, "since that's who is down there, looking for a way to become like me on his orders," he explained. Enko's eyes widened. "Wait, Orochimaru is actually having someone else seek Mushi before himself?" she asked, bewildered by the very thought of the Serpentine Man putting someone else attaining immortality above himself. Naruto nodded. "Orochimaru knew about that place before I did, I think, but he's scared of it. The fact I went down there and came back stronger might interest him, but I think he's a coward," he complained. Sure, the place made him immortal and he was still scared of it, but that was besides the point. Enko wasn't sure. Everything she knew about Orochimaru made his actions seem nonsense. She knew he was afraid of death, but he was also arrogant and powerful. "What's actually down there?" she asked. "I was killed down there a lot more than in the Forest of Death," Naruto commented instead of answering. "Until Orochimaru turned his full attention on me, I only ever died down there actually. It made everything feel separated actually," he explained with a far-off look in his eyes. Karen and Anko were both pretty sure that didn't actually answer the question, but even Anko could tell the blonde would be a bit evasive about that subject for longer still. Hiruzen Sarutobi was tired, he wanted to retire, and he would tell no one, but he had hoped to die killing Orochimaru. As it was, Orochimaru was probably his only surviving student who actually wanted to be Hokage, and that was definitely not an option. Also, Tsunade had nagged Hiruzen after saving his life, pointing out how many problems wouldn't exist if he just listened to her proposal about funding the medical corps the first time. As if Konoha had been in position to afford it at the time. Granted, he had to admit in hindsight building up their Iroha ninja forces in peacetime would have been the way to go, which is why Konoha had done so, but apparently those programs were not up to Tsunade's standards. Hiruzen would be less irritated with the nagging if the Kunoichi would just become Hokage. Jiraiya would also be an option, but the white-haired man had made it clear to the Sandaime that he didn't think he deserved the hat. The Nidaime doing it would be perfect if not for the fact that the man simply wanted to return to the afterlife after punishing Orochimaru for bringing him back, and Hiruzen would not force his predecessor to do what he did and continue the job past his retirement, even if his retirement had been death. Hiruzen wished he had the energy or time to help his still loyal students through their problems. Tsunade had insisted some problems which had nothing to do with medicine would have been stopped, but still refused the hat, while Jiraiya just felt he'd made too many mistakes. Danzo was a definite no. The man shouldn't live much longer than the Sandaime himself and was a cripple. Plus, the Nidaime had actually been scolding Danzo privately, which Hiruzen tried not to react to, but it was difficult when the man who picked him for Sandaime was scolding the man he didn't pick for not working with him more. Which left the generation of Guy, Kakashi, and Asuma. There were other Jonin in that generation, including the Hokage's bodyguards. The issue was those were the only three who had the power, and each one had personal problems that would make them ill-fit for the job. Plus, all three of them still had genin cells. Kakashi's cell might make Chunin first, but it would depend on Ino and Choji from Cell 10 really. Hiruzen was aware that Ino and Sakura had a rivalry, but Choji would be more interested in following Shikamaru than competition. Hiruzen was glad Guy would have his genin to worry about, but it was still pretty bad that his options had boiled down to Asuma Sarutobi, his son who definitely did not want the hat, and Kakashi Hatake who had a host of other issues besides his tardiness. So when Tsunade came in to give Hiruzen medication and check his vitals, the Sandaime broached the issue again. You don't fear the sight of blood anymore. He noticed, he knew when it had happened and he could guess why, but he wished the woman would open up a little. Tsunade sighed. I still hate it, she answered. My hands shake every time I finish treating someone who is bleeding. She confessed, which was a bit more than she usually said, that Rock Lee Genin still wants the surgery even though I told him it's a coin flip if he lives or dies. I think seeing Naruto survive helped me a little, but he's mushy, so I don't think this will last. If I fail again, I don't think I'll be okay. She rambled quietly. Hiruzen frowned throughout the explanation. I see. I admit such decisions are what make being Hokage the worst job in the world. He responded sadly. Really selling me on the Godaime Hokage idea, Sarutobi-sensei. Tsunade joked, trying to steer away from the depressing topic as she plugged some weak painkillers into the four. They were weak mostly to help Hiruzen remain lucid. If he complained of discomfort, then he was still in pain, and she would up the dosage. A pity, Hiruzen muttered. You'd have done a good job. A better head on your shoulders than either of your teammates. He praised, although with Orochimaru counted as one of those two it was a bit less of a compliment unless he was talking purely intellectually. The Sandaime sighed again. A pity we must fear that blood too, he mused before his eyes widened, but we do have another Uzumaki untouched by the blood. He recalled. Tsunade raised an eyebrow. So? She asked. You recall my Obaken was Mito Uzumaki before she married into the Senju, right? She pointed out, not seeing the big deal. Karen Uzumaki implied she recognized the healing ability Naruto displayed, specifically his ability to let others use it through blood. Hiruzen answered, in hindsight she was likely covering for him, but approach her, ask her, maybe she can help with Likuin. He advised. Tsunade nodded. Alright, I'll come around after lunch to double-check the work the nurses did. She promised before she left. Hiruzen smiled with fondness for his student before it drifted into sadness as his mind wandered back into considering candidates for Godaime Hokage. Anko raised an eyebrow at Karen's choice of breakfast, eggs and bacon? She asked. Sure, there was toast, but it didn't match what she knew about how the Uzumaki did things so far. Karen slammed her hands down. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get Naruto and I to eat something that isn't ramen or something red bean flavored? She asked in a hiss. Wait, Anko is actually his second favorite food? Anko asked with a raised eyebrow and a smirk, considering the timing of how and when she learned that she thought the blonde boy was just trying to tease her back, not giving her ammunition. Ramen is the best, but I like sweets too. Naruto answered with a shrug as his cheeks tinged pink. Anko goes good on toast. He added. So you want to spread me? Anko asked as both Uzumaki went bright red for different reasons. Her smirk widened at their combined incoherent spluttering. The Tokubetsu Jonin's fun was spoiled by a knock at the door. I already ate, I'll get it. She offered. Either of the younger ninjas stopped her. Tsunade was at the door with her arms crossed under her chest. Anko-san, I know you have a duty to help protect these two from Orochimaru, but don't you have friends your own age? She asked. Anko nodded. Sure, Yugao-chan and Kurenai-chan are busy with other missions though, and I'll probably be busy with a different mission by the time either of them gets free time. She answered shamelessly. Tsunade sighed. Anyone else? She asked. I'm a chunin, so I'm an adult. Naruto insisted. There was not exactly that much space and no walls between the apartment dining table and the front door. I don't care that your body resists alcohol, Tsunade said bluntly, which made both the other kunoichi wonder when and how that had been revealed. There are some things you shouldn't do based on the age of your body. She argued. So I can kill, die, and drink, but I can't dash? Naruto trailed off, not entirely sure how to actually phrase it, and realizing mid-sentence that asking it made him sound like he wanted to do it, which he thought made it sound like he was a pervert, so he abandoned the sentence entirely. Karen winced at the word die. Can you die? Tsunade asked with a confused expression. Naruto shrugged, sort of, but it doesn't stick. He answered before scratching the back of his head. Actually, I don't usually get up how you saw. That was, a one-off opportunity. One probably won't be able to do it again. He explained. Normally I wake up undamaged in bed, but that loses me time. He simplified a lot because he still wasn't sure how to explain the dream. Anko blinked, but decided that if anyone was going to bring the discussion back to what Naruto had been implying, that it definitely should not be her. However, Tsunade herself decided to. Interesting, but for the record, if you can't say it out loud, then you can't do it. Karen knew immediately that was the wrong thing for the woman to say. Oh, Naruto said as he suddenly steeled himself, determination in his eyes, so I'm allowed to sex. He finished. He failed to avoid blushing though. Anko snorted and covered her mouth as she doubled over. She struggled not to burst into laughter at the declaration. Karen covered her face with her hands, mortified that the blonde had been goaded into saying it by the older blonde. Tsunade stared at the younger blonde with a surprised expression for a few moments. You know what? Your sensei are Kakashi Hatake and Jiraiya. She recalled before she shook her head. That was on me, I should have expected that. She realized, but you still shouldn't until you're at least, she considered it as she tapped her chin, 15 at the earliest. She decided. Technically speaking, Tsunade could not actually stop Naruto unless he tried to force himself on someone, but she figured the Chunin did not need to know that there was actually no law stopping him, and that she was just giving medical advice. That being said, Tsunade continued before she turned to Karen. Is the Uzumaki blood healing thing just a thing with Naruto's blood, or have other Uzumaki had it? She asked, because Midobasama never mentioned it. She clarified, the abilities I know are longevity and chakra kusari. What kind of chains? Naruto asked curiously. Karen had heard of those. The chains are rare, she began vaguely as she crossed her arms. I've never seen them, but my family has something a little similar to what Naruto and I can do. She confessed, his is definitely stronger and better though. Tsunade noted the use of family instead of branch or clan. It implied to the Sannin that the ability likely was a branch-off ability that the close family of the girl knew, as the Uzumaki had been defunct as a clan since before either of the Uzumaki in the room were born. Well, I don't need stronger and better, Tsunade spoke up after a moment, I need safe. I'll explain the details to you privately, but suffice to say odds are high Jenin will die unless I can add something new to the surgery he already volunteered for despite knowing the odds. She explained, giving away a bit more than she'd like about a patient to someone not yet on board, but the situation called for it.